All right, it's February, and we'll start a little different. We've got the land behind the historic courthouse. This is the first time the county has owned the original land, correct?
What was there when the city of Anderson was created to be the courthouse town for the county.
Remind people what those roads were called and those areas were called, because a lot of people just think about the Bales building being older, but it's long before that. There were.
This was drawn out to be the courthouse square. And then over time, parts were sold off and shortened. Now, you know, when they built the new courthouse, which is 26 years old now, the county had to go back and purchase that property. So they restored that much of the original grant, if you will. And now that the county has purchased the old Bales property, Woolworth property, it's back like it was. But this is the first part of February. We have another meeting this week with the developers to discuss where we are and how it's looking and things like that. And again, the county's position, the council's position is if it is not exactly perfect, then we'll continue to work until it is perfect. But that's another interesting thing that you talked about, because in a lot of counties all across the country, a town was there, and then they said, okay, you're the courthouse town, and then the county developed around it. But because Pendleton was the capital, if you will, of the Pendleton district, when they divided up Oconee, Pickens, and Anderson, they said, well, we gotta have a courthouse. So they came down here. There was no Anderson. And so they decided this is where it would be. And so the county, in one of the rare cases in history, predates the town. And so that's why we have this, and it's all restored, and hopefully the people here now will be good stewards of that legacy and improve upon it.
We won't chase this too far, but remind people what these roads used to be called in through here. We've talked about this, you and I. Yeah.
And the one out in front of the old courthouse was the General's Road. And that was the General's Road because it went from Abbeville up to Pendleton, and General Pickens would go up that road, and they called it forever the General's Road. And then on the two roads on the side of the courthouse, you had Granite Row and Brick Row, because on one side you had granite, Elberton being the granite capital of the world, and we're not too far behind if you do a construction project near the lake, and Brick Row. And so that's what those two were called forever and a day. So I just think that's very interesting for people to know. But what you think is Main Street used to be called the General's Road.
I wonder if we could incorporate any of those names into the new buildings and stuff.
I would hope that we could honor the history. There's several buildings around here where they have murals, and the city's fixing to do a mural right now where you could incorporate that old history, because I think it's important that people know that history. And so, yeah, there's a big demand for that.
And that's increasingly becoming the bulk of our populations, people who aren't from here.
There are a whole lot of people who weren't born here, and there are a whole lot more of those people coming here. But then you juxtapose that, and last night I took a tour of the Orr House, which used to be Orr's Tavern, which is where former Governor Orr was born. And allegedly that's one of the oldest houses in Anderson. So you go from a long way back there to where you have all of these people moving in here. I mean, the population of the state's over 5 million. When you and I were running around, it was 2.5 million. And now it looks like there's possibility of another congressional seat. So all this is interesting, giving South Carolina more clout and giving us more clout.
Let's talk about the south side of the county, the south eastern corner of the county. What's going on down that way?
Well, if you go to the town of Williamston, which we just got off the phone with, they're planning a big balloon festival. They have a very vibrant downtown program that they're working on. So Williamston is really doing a lot of interesting things to try to increase business in that area.
One of the oldest parks in the...
Springwater Park, because it was a resort. There used to be a huge hotel, and people would come from all over the country to take the waters there. And now you can still go take the waters over there. You just walk down there and take a cup, and you're drinking that spring water that people used to come from miles around to drink. Pelzer, there's some private developers. Things are really exciting going over there. The county has been engaged for a long time in cleaning up those old mill sites in conjunction with Pelzer Historical Society, which has done a fantastic job, and the town of Pelzer. So that's going on. And West Pelzer, Mayor Blake Sanders, he's got everything rocking and rolling over there, working on parks, creating new businesses downtown, even if he has to create a new business downtown on his own. And the Art Museum, the Billy Odell Community Resource Center, so they're rocking and rolling. And a lot of action that we have currently is up in Piedmont. You know, part of Piedmont's in Greenville, part of it's in Anderson. A lot of large subdivisions that are fixing to go in up there in that Piedmont area. The county's in the process of buying land right behind the Pelzer Dam to put a park there. And we also were allowed by County Council last week to pursue some additional monies to flesh out that park. And as you know, that park is going to be downriver from Dolly Cooper Park, which is upriver. We participated in the historical removing of the old smokestack at Jackson Mill, and that place was packed with people down there to see that. So that was pretty exciting, and so at least half of that mill is being cleaned up. In Honeypath, they're still working on cleaning up the Shakola Mill site, and they're working diligently on that. They have a real developer who's interested in that, and so we're seeing how that's going to play out, and the county is assisting them with Gail Jeter, who works for us, but she provides services to all of the towns and sections of the county that want to do work like that. In Belton, they're doing some mill removal down there. We were able to work, thanks to Greg Smith, who works for Anderson County, provide some space in the landfill for them to haul off some debris from an old mill that they're cleaning up. We also, the Finance Committee, and hopefully Council will approve tonight, a generous donation to the Chili Cook-Off down there, which is one of the biggest events in the county and grows every year.
People from all over the country show up at that, yeah.
Yes, they do. And
I saw where Belton's trying to become a...
And Belton wants that HGTV grant, so Allison Darby is working real hard on that, but she works hard on everything down there all the time, 24 hours a day. She's also working on the Natural History Museum.
Yeah, another state museum would be in Belton. We'd suddenly have...
Yeah, and she's probably trying to turn Belton into a spaceport, but we haven't heard about that yet. But she's always up to something. And you know, recently she spearheaded that move to put the marker in Creightonville, pointing out the history of Creightonville. So in that section of the county, you have a lot of things going on, and it's going to increase. I'm very happy that Anderson County, working in conjunction with Abbeville County, now has an industrial park there that's shovel ready to go. And so we're excited about that, because a company could come in there right now, all utilities are there, boom. And as you know, and everybody knows, most of Honeypath's in Anderson County, but a little bit of Honeypath is in Abbeville County. And Abbeville County, again recently, has pointed out that is one of the growth areas for Abbeville County. So hopefully that's going to continue to be a market center for that part of the world. So a lot of things going on there. Oh, Pendleton's blowing up. They had the state of Pendleton a speech last week, if I'm not mistaken. And people were talking about what they want. They want the oil mill cleaned up. It's not as easy as you think, because if it was, Pendleton would have done it.
You got just 30 seconds to tell me what are the people? Everybody asks, what's the holdup on cleaning that up?
Well, the one thing is the town doesn't own it, and the person who has it doesn't want to sell it or give it to the town, and that site is polluted. So whoever ends up with that site is going to spend a tremendous amount of money to clean that area up. And the town has attacked it 15 different ways, and I know they're still trying to find ways to do that. Plus, they're talking about building a new fire station in Pendleton. That'll be very exciting. And it's just the rapid growth in that area, which leads us to the meetings we're having with the town of Pendleton, the city of Clemson, and Anderson County about increasing the size of that existing sewer treatment plant up there, so we don't have to go find another site to build a sewer treatment plant, because a sewer treatment plant and a jail are two things you don't want to be on the location committee. But that would take care of about half of Clemson for a long time, take care of Pendleton for a long time, and take care of Anderson County for a long time, next 30 years. And that area is not going to slow down. It's going to continue to grow, and they're going to have growth problems and growth struggles. There's a whole lot of things, commercial activity, that's going to Pendleton right now. And some of it we aren't at liberty to talk about.
This is all new to Pendleton, too.
This
I mean,
is all
been quiet for many
new,
years.
because Pendleton, right over there off the side of the road, I'm glad to say that the county stepped in to help. And now everything on the outside, where the Milliken plant still is and all that, that's now in the city of Pendleton. That's provided a great boost to their tax revenue, but also added a strain on services. A lot of that that's happening out on Clemson Boulevard is going to fund what's happening in downtown Pendleton. They've just done the new streetscape project up there. It's not new now, but about 6 months. So everything is wide open there, and everybody wants to go to Pendleton.
And the county's making a concerted effort to bring all the towns together and let's try to be a united front when we're recruiting and doing things, correct?
Well, I think it's very important that we remember that the towns and council feels this way. I'm just articulating what they say, is that, you know, they're towns, but those people are also Anderson County citizens, and we need to be of service and provide what they need to the best we can. We have grant writing staff here, second to none in the state, and we offer to write grants for any town that wants us to, or just about anybody that wants us to, as long as it's ethical, moral, and legal. So we provide that service. We also, like I mentioned earlier, provide that Brownsfield consultant that we pay for, that anybody can use and talk to. Just a lot of things we do like that, and I just think it's very important that we do that. And a lot of my background before I came back to the county for the second time was working with small towns, and I understand those challenges. They're sitting there with antiquated sewer systems that in a lot of cases were put in by the mills, and they're just falling apart. So it's hard being the mayor of a small town right now. We want to help any way that we can to lessen that burden, because it is a burden.
Are we any closer to cleaning up the sites here?
Toxaway Mill, yeah, we'll have a meeting this week on some further efforts that we're going to be doing over there. You know, we bought the
That would be the perfect expansion for downtown to go that way.
But one thing people also need to realize, that we have a lot of opportunity zones in Anderson County. When that concept came up, we put in everything to be an opportunity zone, really. Everything we could think of. And then the state, not us, made the decision on what could be an opportunity zone and not. Our airport's in an opportunity zone, which is leading to some interesting things coming on out there. A lot of these old mills, to get back to your point, are in opportunity zones. And that makes it very attractive for investors and for housing and commercial activities, because you can just pretty much eat your tax liability away. And if you have a whole lot of money like you do, you can park a lot of your wealth in there and shelter it to a degree. So we've had people coming in looking at our old mills. We've given tours to all the old mill sites trying to gin that up. And that's a concept that's been around for about 2 years, but people, the financial community's just now saying, yeah, I think there's money to be made here.
You think 20 years from now, people won't recognize it? It'll be.
I hope that those mills will be returned back to their former glory. People always say, well, you know, they're turning the old mills into Greenville into condominiums. And I'm saying, that's a great idea. The ones we're trying to clean up are on the ground. We have a very nice announcement that we can't talk about because we're still embargoed from talking about that. So that's good.
Is there a timetable somewhere in the future?
Yeah, I'm saying before June. We have a lot of expansions that we're working on. I-85, especially in the Liberty Highway area, you have some huge projects that are fixing to go at that intersection. Some huge projects. And some huge residential going up on Liberty Highway.
The 81 exit there too, that exit 27.
81, I know that some people up there are going through lists of hotels and restaurants they would like to see. That's going on right now. And we are working with a lot of those commercial entities. People sometimes think all we do is the big plants. We do a whole lot of commercial activity in providing information and resources. Something's changing all the time. It looks like we're going to have a new Wendy's out on the 28 bypass. So 28 bypass is being reborn and coming back to life, and we're happy about that. The people that we're putting in the old TTI building / Ryobi building / Singer building, that's putting some activity and people on that street. The new technical high school is putting people over there on that side of town. So we're really happy about that. And I think that's only going to increase. But everything around here is going to continue to grow. The huge development up at Piedmont, if you go up there, there's more disturbed dirt in that part of the world than you can shake a stick at. So you've got a lot of things going up there. It's just a whole lot going on, and a whole lot that's going to continue to go on. And you're going to see a lot of commercial activities that you might have seen in Columbia or Greenville, but now our market is ready for those activities to take place here. So you're going to be seeing some new chains, but more exciting, you're seeing a lot of local entrepreneurs deciding to jump in. And across from the Civic Center, you got that new pizza place going in, Fire Pizza. They're grading land over there across from the Civic Center. I mean, there's just everywhere you go, there is dirt being turned up. Of course, with all of this rain, you're seeing a lot of dirt, but you're not seeing a lot of construction.
People moving in, people coming in, they're expecting recreational activities, quality of life kind of things. That puts a lot of pressure on the county to make sure those things are in place.
County needs, and we're addressing that at Dolly Cooper Park with our new river trail, with our enhanced kayaks, and other activities that we're adding up there, like the baseball field through community focus groups. What they want is a baseball field. We have a football field at Dolly Cooper Park, but now we want a baseball field there, and council is pledged to make that happen, so we're excited about that. But another thing that we're doing is we're adding 8 pickleball courts out at the Civic Center. Now, and you and I have talked about this, but 4 years ago I had never heard of pickleball. And now there are fanatical pickleball players. So we hope by adding these 8 pickleball courts, we'll be able to hold championships and tournaments. And thanks to Glenn Brill, it looks like that the Special Olympics may get involved in pickleball, and we might be the first test site to make that happen. Another thing, when you talked about all of the towns, what do we do?
And disc golf is a big part of it.
Disc golf is a
Dolly
big part
Cooper
of
and
it.
the Civic Center.
And the Civic Center, and that's continuing to grow. And we may put, Councilman Davis is looking at the feasibility of maybe adding another disc golf course out at Dolly Cooper Park. Plus the Powdersville Business Council is having a big river fest there, and we've got the Saluda River kayak launch. But another thing, when you talked about all those towns, one of the things that the county does now is we provide a senior nutrition and recreation program. We do that in Iva, we do it in Honeypath, we do it in Belton, we do it in Williamston, and we have just added New Holly Light, which is on South Carolina 187, but you and I know as Wild Hog Road. And the county's providing meals in those areas plus recreation, and they're really, really going well. New Holly Light hadn't been open to it, and it's St. Paul's here in Anderson. New Holly Light probably hadn't been open 3 weeks, and already it's clicking.
Those areas weren't being served at all.
No, they weren't being served at all, and so we're very happy about that. And so council's expanding our emphasis on senior citizens things. Pickleball, and I was talking, I said, who plays pickleball? They said, people who are too old to play tennis anymore. So that's it. So that's really a senior-oriented recreation activity. So that's been going on. Now we have the food and recreation program. So all of that's getting around, and we hope to expand those programs because they are very popular. And
the trail that is still a ways off, but the trail.
I don't know if the trail's a way off as it was, because I think you may see some activity this summer expanding the East-West Parkway. And if you've been by the East-West Parkway, you will notice that the bathroom is there, and it's now operational. And we still have some landscaping to do to address that place up. We've already had one group tell us they would be happy to name it and adopt it and take care of it, but we're not there yet. So that's been a big hit, and we're very proud of that.
That trail, I mean, just the Parkway walk is full all the time. But if it went all the way down behind the YMCA,
to the Civic Center.
From the YMCA to the Civic Center, a really nice walking track. It would also benefit all those subdivisions and kids walking to Midway Elementary School, and I mean, it really opens up a whole new walking.
It opens up a whole new world, and I know the city's working real hard on their ambitious trail program that would connect into it, and they're to be congratulated for that, because that's going to be absolutely fantastic. You'll be able to walk around just like you used to be able to walk around.
And there's some dreams, I think, even that Blake Sanders has to get West Pelzer easily to the Swamp Rabbit Trail to have a long.
I would love for there to be a trail, and Mac Durham, the mayor of Williamston, also has this thing about a trail that goes from Anderson to Williamston, then hook up with Blake, and actually connects there. And there's no reason it can't happen. You know, the city of Clemson now is actually doing a little about on their trail reaching down into Pendleton. So that's exciting. And one day all of these trails can link up.
And we were involved in some of that experimental forest trail stuff with the county, right?
Absolutely, we were up at Fance Grove and all that area up there. Former Councilman Tom Allen and others real instrumental on that and working towards making that happen. So
The sign on the south end of 85 coming in from Georgia, where are we on that?
I'd say it ought to be up in a month. I think we've got our last permit, and then we'll be landscaping it. So I think that'll be up in a month.
The one on the north side, you get more and more good comments. It's a good looking sign.
Well, everybody loves it, and we're expecting those comments to come from.
And you finally got it landscaped out too. We got that water tank out of there.
We got that water tank, and it looks good. And I want to, we have to thank our building and grounds, really facilities staff for doing all that, because that's being done in-house. We had a sign blitz last week, and I can tell you that we've had zillions of positive comments, but we also had some negative comments. And maybe in some cases we might have been a little overzealous, but I went to the dry cleaners this week, and the lady there, she said, you know, because she's been telling me about a road problem. She lives right off of 28. And she says, you know, I don't know who moved all those signs out, but I can finally see how to get on the road without taking my life in my hands. But maybe in some cases we're a little overzealous. We will recalibrate that. But people, we get more complaints on litter than any other thing. It was success, but we need to fine tune that, because we did make some groups angry, and I think legitimately so, but we need to be working on that.
But it does look so much better. I mean,
It
even out
looks
near
so
where I
much-
live, I mean,
it looks so much better.
She's right. It was a hazard to be able to see it
I
sometimes.
mean, you can't see. But the county has 3 full-time litter officers. They don't arrest, do armed robberies. They police litter. We have 1 deputy who is there for the hard litter / maybe criminal problems. And the sheriff's department sends out 2 crews every day of prisoners to pick up trash in the county. And if they work in some parts of the county, if they get a mile a day, then it's amazing. So, I mean, the county is expending resources. Greg Smith's group has the Adopt a Road program. I think we have 78 roads adopted. But I mean, there's some roads in the county, and I participate in every cleanup we have. I've cleaned them up 3 times, and I like to go back in a week to see how they are. And sometimes they're just as bad as they were when we picked up every little cigarette butt. So the council still won't let me hire a sniper, so we're continuing to do it this way.
And I don't want to spend too much time talking about trash, but I would like to shout out. I was sort of had an eye opener when I went with them to see them clean up some of these like dumping where people dump. They find, I mean, hypodermic needles, all this hazmat gear. They have to be careful that you
Yes.
can get poked with a needle. You don't know where it came from. That's very dangerous. What these guys are having to do on some of these cleanups.
Well,
It's
you
not
can
like
make
picking up the side of the
you
road.
can make meth in a plastic bottle now, and if you mess with that the wrong way, you're going to be burned and blown up. So I mean, it's not an easy job, and our magistrates are working very well with us on putting appropriate fines on people.
Are they getting
who
better
do
on
that.
that? Because for years
Yes.
people complained that was a problem. Even
Yes,
Greg
it-
Smith has said that had been a problem at points.
I think that's improved tremendously about doing that, because again, the big complaint we have is litter. We're also getting ready to take down 5 more houses, demolish 5 more houses, because the money is collected on that. So that will also be another help, because when we remove those dilapidated houses, no longer can you go in there and use them for drug drops and things like that. So that's something that we'll be continuing to do forever and a day.
Just never enough money for that, is there? I rode around and looked at
There's
some
never
of those.
enough money, and with the new regulations in the past, we were able to tear down a house for $2,000 or $3,000. We'd gotten it just like that. And now, because of new restrictions, not laws, new restrictions, we have to go and do asbestos testing, even on houses that have absolutely no asbestos. And that has really jumped up the price and reduced the number of houses that we can take down. Towns have much more enforcement power to deal with this than counties. And we have requested repeatedly and time after time to please allow us to have the same policing powers that cities have. And we could be much more effective and increase the speed at which we do things. But that's a call from the General Assembly, not anything that we can change here.
Any chance that could happen? We're
Oh,
hopeful.
we keep beating that drum. We keep beating
Well, here in
that
Anderson
drum.
particularly, we have some huge sections that aren't incorporated in the city that really are part of the city. And
Population of the city is probably 28,000, but if you look at the urban area, it's about 80,000. And that's because the annexation laws in South Carolina are antiquated and reflected the idea that we don't want those cities to get out here in our good agricultural land. So we're trying to provide, in a lot of cases, city services in places that aren't in a city.
And that produces another challenge for law enforcement.
Yes, it does.
And the emergency preparedness, David Baker was talking about that because it is that time of year. We're going to have an ice storm before it's over with, and they've been trying to have public meetings to help people prepare for those.
Well, Green Pond is nice and full, so we're not worried about that. We don't need Broadway Lake filled up right now because we have a lot of work that we're doing rebuilding the seawalls down at Broadway Lake. So it's good for Green Pond, but we need to keep the water just a little bit lower at Broadway Lake for right now. But the Saluda River's running very, very well.
And Green Pond now, I mean, I don't want to get by it too fast, is now booked out 5 years in advance on a lot of dates and big things.
Yes,
it's becoming a real destination.
And there's other stuff that's coming out at Green Pond, and it continues to provide money.
New docks, new parking,
all of that stuff. And
council just approved, or they're going to talk about the finance committee approved
and about
better roads in.
And about 100% of that comes from sport fishing grants, which I'm pretty sure we'll get the third one. Nobody gets 3 sport fishing grants. And the reason these people are giving us that money is because that money is designated for areas to provide fishing and recreational opportunities. And so our success out there has said they want to be part of it. So here's some more money. Y'all did real good with that money we gave you. So y'all go do that. And sport fishing grants, people say, well, you know, that's just tax money, you shouldn't take it. Well, it comes on fees coming from the fishing community. So it's fishermen funding things for fishermen. So if they're throwing money out there, Anderson County is going to be the first at the gate to get some of that money.
And the economic impact, I think the last thing I saw, since it's been open for 5 years, almost $60 million.
Yes, and those people, I'm getting redundant, but they buy gas, they stay here, they stay Airbnb, they stay in hotels. I was at a meeting up the Hilton Garden Inn the other day, and we were talking about some traffic issues right there, because you know there's some traffic issues right there. And one of the things that the man who owned the hotel was, he said, you know, when we have tournaments here, which we almost have every weekend, we have a lot of fishermen coming in and pulling their boats. Hilton Garden Inn has already adapted areas in their parking lot for the fishermen to be able to bring their boats in, hook them up with power, and take care of them. Private industry doesn't do that unless there's some money to be made by doing that.
Yeah, and I think people who have not been out to Green Pond just as citizens who aren't fishing and all, when they go out there, they're like, wow, there's a nice beach out there to sit.
There's a beach. Go sit up on the hill. You don't have to go out there and fish. There are a lot of people now who go out there just to walk. And let me tell you, if you walk around Green Pond one time, you've got your exercise for the day. But it has so many other uses than just fishing.
While it might not be quite the scope, what we're building here behind the courthouse is going to be one of those projects you and I won't really live to see all the benefits.
No. And that's why it has to be absolutely right, or some people will be cursed into posterity. And as they say, I don't want to be in that number.
Well, I guess that's it for February. We'll catch up in March.
I like a plan.